Summer 1867. In the blistering heat of Powder River, the Cheyenne ride with burning vengeance. For decades, their feud with the Crow has burned fiercely. Raids, stolen horses, bloodshed on both sides. Now, the Crow, armed with rifles from white soldiers, have struck deep. Warriors slain, scalps taken, sacred herds lost. The Cheyenne will not rest until the Crow pay for their sins. War cries shatter the silence, arrows thirst for blood, and a ritual binds their souls to slaughter. This is more than survival. This is revenge, generations in the making. Smash that like, subscribe now, ride into the blood-soaked storm. Dust swirled over the Powder River as Little Hawk knelt by the trampled grass, fingers tracing hoofprints still warm from the dawn raid. At 25 summers, he bore a dog soldier's scars, shoulder notched by a crow arrow from a Tongue River skirmish, hands hardened from years of war, but today's wound cut fresh. Hours ago, Crow riders had struck their camp near the Tongue, a swift blade through the morning haze. 10 horses, sacred to the Cheyenne, bred from Sioux stock, were gone, their tracks vanishing east toward the Rosebud. Worse, 2 young warriors, Swift Runner and Broken Horn, lay dead by the riverbank, scalps staked to a cottonwood, blood crusting the bark in dark rivulets, flies buzzing thick. Little Hawk's gut churned. This was no mere theft. The Crow had left a taunt, a dare to pursue. He rose, eyes sweeping the horizon where the Cheyenne village stirred. Teepees smoking under the sun's glare, women keening low, warriors sharpening lances with grim purpose. Red Moon, an elder dog soldier with hair like ash and eyes like flint, approached, his voice a rasp. "They ride with white scouts now," he said, spitting into the dust. "Fort Phil Kearny feeds their greed, rifles for scalps." Little Hawk gripped his knife, its blade notched from past kills, the weight familiar in his trembling hand. "Their blood will feed the earth," he vowed, the raid's echo of fire searing his chest, a call no warrior could ignore. The Council of Dust. The sun climbed high, baking the plains as the Cheyenne gathered in a circle of sweat and steel. Little Hawk stood before the dog soldiers and Kit Fox, their faces painted black with vengeance, dust clinging to their braids. He held up Swift Runner's broken bow, its string snapped like a life cut short, the wood splintered where a crow blade had struck. "They took more than horses," he said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside. "They took our pride, Swift Runner's laughter, Broken Horn's songs." Murmurs rippled through the ranks. White Elk, a Kit Fox with a scarred jaw from a Sioux raid, pounded his chest, his eyes blazing. "We ride now! Let their women wail!" Tall Bear, an elder dog soldier with a limp from Red Cloud's war, nodded grimly, his voice low. "But we need allies. The Crow grow bolder with the Bluecoat's iron." Little Hawk agreed, his mind tracing the paths to survival. For days he had tracked rumors, Crow scouts for the army since the Fetterman fight, their raids backed by rifles from Fort Phil Kearny, a scar on the plains 50 miles north. He had sent runners south to the Arapaho near Wind River, offering tobacco for 10 riders, their chief's grunt sealing the promise by firelight. Another went east to the Sioux along the Rosebud, where Crazy Horse's name carried the weight of blood. 15 warriors arrived by dusk, dust-caked and fierce, lances gleaming under the fading sun. Crazy Horse sent a message scratched on hide. "Strike hard, but beware the white man's shadow." The council ended with a shared pipe, its red pipestone bowl warm in Little Hawk's hands, smoke curling skyward like spirits rising, sealing a pact of pursuit across the unforgiving plains. The Medicine of Vengeance. At dusk, the Cheyenne raised a ritual lodge by the Tongue, its buffalo hide walls glowing under a fiery sky, sage smoke thick in the air. Little Hawk entered, eyes burning as Red Moon, hair like ash, readied the medicine arrows. 4 sacred shafts, tips stained with ancient blood. "Maheo claims your blood's cry," the elder rasped, slashing Little Hawk's arm with a bone knife. Crimson sprayed the dust, each drop a vow to avenge Swift Runner's grin. White Elk bared his chest, blood streaking his scars, grunting defiance as the knife bit deep. A Sioux ally smeared red across his face, eyes wild with fury. Chants rose like a storm, drums pounding under the moon's cold glare. Red Moon dipped the arrows in the pooled gore, their gleam a vow of slaughter. Little Hawk clenched his fist, pain fueling a rage that drowned his grief. Maheo's strength now theirs. Reborn in blood, they turned to the hunt, spirits forged for vengeance. The trail. East dawn broke fierce. The war party, 40 Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Sioux, riding east along the Tongue River, dust choking their lungs. The sun a hammer overhead. Little Hawk led, his pony's hooves pounding a rhythm of hate, eyes fixed on the crow tracks etched deep in the dry earth. 2 days they rode. The plains stretching endless, golden grass swaying under a relentless sky, cottonwoods clawing the riverbanks, ravens croaking overhead like omens of death. They camped at night, fires low, voices hushed, the weight of the chase pressing their shoulders. On the second dusk, a Sioux scout, Lean Wolf, spotted a hawk circling a distant ridge. "Their sign," he muttered, pointing. Little Hawk nodded, his gut tight. The third morn, near a dry creek off the Powder, they found proof. A horse skull picked clean, a crow arrow snapped in the dirt, its feathers stained with dried blood. Little Hawk dismounted, crouching low, scanning the ridge ahead where the air shimmered with heat. "They're close," he growled, hand tightening on his lance. White Elk sniffed the wind, his scarred jaw twitching. "Too quiet. Smells like a trap." Tall Bear's gaze narrowed, his limp forgotten as he gripped his war club. "They want us to chase." Tension rippled through the party. Lean Wolf shifted uneasily, and Arapaho whispered a prayer. Little Hawk stood, ordering them to spread thin, lances low, senses sharp as knives. The plains held their breath, the silence a predator waiting to strike. Ambush at the Dry Creek noon blazed, the sun a furnace when the trap sprang. From the ridge, 35 Crow warriors surged, bows singing a deadly hymn, joined by 5 white scouts in blue coats, rifles cracking like thunder across the Dry Creek. Little Hawk's war cry tore free as the Cheyenne charged, lances flashing in the sun's glare, dust exploding in a choking cloud. Blood sprayed as blades met flesh. Little Hawk's tomahawk cleaved a crow skull. White Elk's lance struck a scout, his body falling in crimson. The ground turned slick, scalps torn, bones shattered, and entrails spilled beneath trampling hooves. A Sioux rider fell, an arrow through his throat. The Crow pressed, their war chief roaring defiance. While rifles barked from the ridge, felling Tall Bear mid-charge, Little Hawk hacked on, blood painting his face and arms, the air thick with the copper tang of slaughter. He parried a crow knife, driving his blade deep into the man's gut, entrails steaming as they spilled, the warrior's gasp a dying wheeze. An Arapaho broke ranks, charging the chief with a wild yell, only to take a bullet through his eye. His head snapped back, blood and bone spraying, body crumpling like a broken doll. Chaos reigned, steel clashing, screams rising, dust stinging their eyes, until Little Hawk saw the tide turn. The Crow held their ground, rifles tipping the scale, their arrows relentless. A Kit Fox fell, chest torn open by a bullet, blood pooling dark. A dog soldier staggered, an arrow in his thigh, then dropped as a crow club crushed his temple. 14 Cheyenne lay dead, their blood soaking the earth, their war cries silenced forever. "Back!" Little Hawk roared, voice raw and breaking as crow war cries taunted, bluecoats reloading with cold precision. The survivors fled west, dust a shroud behind them, the Dry Creek a graveyard of shattered hope. The retreat, ashes of honor. The Cheyenne staggered west, spirits broken by loss. No scalps reclaimed, only death in Little Hawk's throat. He paused by Tall Bear's body, closing his unseeing eyes. Vultures circled overhead, drawn to the carnage. Little Hawk stared east. Crow had melted into the plains, their victory a promise of more raids, their rifles a curse on the wind. The camp's resolve. That night, the survivors reached the village, greeted by silence and the glow of low fires. Women rushed forward, searching faces, their cries rising as they found empty spaces where brothers, husbands, sons should have stood. Little Hawk dismounted, his pony's head low, and faced the gathered Cheyenne. Elders, warriors, widows, under the stars. Red Moon stepped forward, his voice heavy with age and sorrow. "We lost brothers, but not our will. Maheo sees our blood." Little Hawk nodded, clutching a bloodied arrow from the medicine lodge, its tip still warm with their sacrifice. Swift Runner's voice haunted him. "We'll ride together, brother." Now a promise shattered by crow steel. The widow's moccasin burned in his grip, Broken Horn's quiet strength gone too, And the rifles, those cursed irons flashed in his mind, their roar a shadow over every hunt to come. Could blood repay blood against such power? Yet his chest tightened, rage clawing past the fear. "They'll pay," he said, voice low but firm. "In this life or the next." A young widow, her face streaked with ash, pressed a beaded moccasin into his hand. Broken horns. "For him," she whispered. The flames flickered, casting shadows of resolve across their faces, the camp a forge of quiet defiance. The Crow's victory was fleeting. The Cheyenne's thirst for blood burned eternal, a fire stoked by loss and tempered by the promise of another dawn. Little Hawk's red trail stained the plains that day, a clash of steel, sacrifice, and unanswered cries drowning Powder River in gore. The Crow and their white allies stand unbroken, their hunger alive, craving more. Will Little Hawk's next hunt defy them or drown in a sea of slaughter? Smash that like, subscribe to us, share, astray. Join us in the blood-drenched wild where the deadliest tales roar to life.